Monday at 8.
The action comedy film Chaser, directed by Dennis Hopper, follows the news.
From the studios of ITN for News and Sport with Carol Barnes and Graham Miller.
Good evening. Welcome to the programme. The headlines tonight. Paula Jones are face-to-face with the President over those sexual harassment claims. Saddam's new call-up as he threatens the West.
And in sport, all the speculation's over. Alan Shearer's back in football.
President Clinton and the woman accusing him of sexual harassment have faced one another in a lawyer's office almost all day. The President was giving secret testimony under oath. Paula Jones has brought a lawsuit against Mr. Clinton, but he insists he doesn't even remember meeting her. Our Washington correspondent James Mates reports.
Fully 6 hours after it drove in this morning, the President's limousine finally pulled away from his lawyer's office. For almost an entire day, Bill Clinton had been answering questions under oath. It was a short drive back to the White House. Throughout those 6 hours, he'd been forced to sit across the table from his accuser, Paula Jones. She'd wanted, as she put it, to look him in the eye while he denied her allegations. Back in 1991, he exposed himself and asked her for sexual favors.
Wait a minute, let me put it.
This morning's media frenzy around Paula Jones was exactly what the White House had been dreading. She was getting her day in the spotlight.
Come on!
She's been accused of trying to humiliate the most powerful man on earth. If that is her motivation, she's having some success. She left by taxi just a few minutes ago, this time unwilling to run the gauntlet of the cameras. Her spokesman was trying hard to put the two sides in this case on a similar footing.
Paula has gone. She is out of the building. For security reasons, she needed to go the same way as the President.
That's an impression the President's lawyer and his advisors will be fighting in the months leading up to the trial. And it seems now there will be a trial. At this so-called discovery stage, Miss Jones's lawyers had the right to ask the President more or less anything they wanted, however personal. They clearly took advantage of that. Barring some extraordinary development, the next stage in this case will be in an Arkansas courtroom at the end of May. James Mates, ITN, Washington.
Saddam Hussein has marked the 7th anniversary of the Gulf War with threats and brinkmanship. He called for hundreds of Iraqi volunteers to meet threats from the United States and Britain, and warned he'd suspend cooperation with United Nations weapons inspectors. Our Middle East correspondent Julian Mannion reports from Baghdad.
They sounded the air raid sirens in Baghdad this morning to commemorate the 7th anniversary of the Gulf War. And once again, 7 years later, Saddam Hussein seems to be taking his country to the brink. In a televised speech, he threatened that Iraq will halt all UN weapons inspections within months unless sanctions are lifted quickly. And the Iraqi president warned the United States, which he described as a selfish and arrogant power, that military force would achieve nothing. The president's speech came after a government-organized demonstration in the early hours. For the first time in this crisis, the British Union Jack was the target of deliberate anger, and along with the US flag, it was ritually burned. Anti-British feeling was sparked by news that the Royal Navy aircraft carrier HMS Invincible is now heading for the Gulf. The decision to centre is clearly seen here as an important symbolic move. Meanwhile, the chief UN weapons inspector Richard Butler is on his way to Baghdad for talks due to start on Monday. It's now hard to see what Richard Butler's talks here can achieve. This crisis is moving beyond the details of weapons inspections and is starting to develop its own fatal momentum, which may yet take it all the way to full-scale military confrontation. Julian Mannion, ITN, Baghdad.
Here, a group of veterans handed back the medals they were awarded after the Gulf War. More than 40 ex-servicemen and women made their protest at the Ministry of Defence. They're angry at the government's attitude to Gulf War syndrome. Our Defence correspondent Kevin Dunn.
They are sick, disappointed and disillusioned. Gulf War veterans who went to the Ministry of Defence to hand in their campaign medals. It was a protest at what they claim is the government's failure to treat and care for them.
It's a hard decision. It's a very sad day. It's the only way I can make a demonstration of my feelings.
I've lost everything as it is. So, as
we've had everything taken off us. We might as well take the medals off us as well. Have them back. Yeah.
They blame their illnesses on the cocktail of vaccines they were given, and the government has already speeded up research into their complaints. The veterans say that of the 51,000 British troops who served in the Gulf, around 6,000 have since become sick with Gulf War illnesses, and around 150 have died. So, after handing back their medals, they remembered those veterans by visiting the cenotaph. Kevin Dunn, ITN, Whitehall.
Sinn Féin says it can't accept the new Anglo-Irish plans for a political settlement in Northern Ireland. Their chief negotiator, Martin McGuinness, accused the British and Irish governments of unionist bias. He says they'll attend the talks that resume on Monday, but to try to get the plans changed. Richard Branson inflated his new balloon today, but after watching the last one float off into the Moroccan sky last month, he was taking no chances this time. Terry Lloyd reports from Liverpool.
For 3 weeks, through Christmas and New Year, workers had been cutting, gluing and stitching to create the new balloon. They toiled against the clock to give Richard Branson and his fellow pilots the chance to catch the last weather window before the ballooning season ends.
Doom and gloom back in the early December, it's back to a quite cool air of confidence among our crew here, and we'll be back.
Today, the giant balloon weighing 2.5 tons was taken to a shipyard hangar for a test inflation. Last month, Virgin's original balloon broke free from its moorings on the launch site in Morocco and disappeared over the mountains.
We'll do our best to look after it a lot better. We'll do our best to get the whole way around the world, but nothing is guaranteed in this game.
The next time they inflate this balloon, it will be in Marrakesh. Then it's hoped it will lift off according to plan, complete with capsule and pilots. Terry Lloyd, ITN, Merseyside.